All right, welcome to another live episode of geekoutdoors.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Psycho AI, artificial intelligence, dark mode. And then after that, let's go through Linux Mint 19 Beta XFCE. I'm going to go through that the first time I've really used it after installing it. And so I'm going to go through a walkthrough with it and of course any geeky Q&A. So let's go ahead and start with the very first piece of news, and that is, I don't know how else to say it, but that headline is Psychotic AI, but the name of the AI is called Norman, and that's from the movie Psycho. So if you are old enough to remember what Psycho is, Alfred Hitchcock, this is what Psycho AI is. Now, this is actually being developed by people at MIT. And so what they are actually doing is they're actually seeing whether or not the type of data that's fed to an AI, an artificial intelligence, makes a difference. And I do like definitely what they're doing here, but it's also creepy. And this is what I think most people fear about artificial intelligence. And I know MIT isn't the only one testing this. I am 1,000% positive Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, all these big companies that are heavily invested in AI. IBM, of course, as well. It's been doing AI for a long time. I'm positive they've run very similar tests to this. Okay, so why is this one interesting? Okay, it's interesting because of this. Okay, and I'm gonna leave my thoughts on it as well because this gets into a lot of really touchy subjects, specifically psychology. Okay, and so I like this chart right here where the team actually goes through the whole idea of artificial intelligence, Psycho the movie, of course, and also human psychology and why it's important to this experiment that they're doing. And so I like how they simplify this. And so as I'm going through this, there is a progression to where we get Norman. And what Norman does is it's an AI right now. It's trained to look at images. And then what it does is it actually makes an assessment or thought on the images that it sees. Okay, and this is very similar to the Rorschach ink blocks, which a lot of psychologists use, where created by this guy right here, 1921, where different images, specifically ink blots, are shown to people. And this is where the psychology comes in. And then, depending on their response, it actually shows them kind of their mental state. Okay? So, what the normal AI did was it was actually trained or taught to look at a lot of really disturbing images from a subreddit. Okay? From it's like shows like really dead bodies, violent stuff. Okay, and so that was the only type of data that Norman AI was fed, and then they compared that to a standard AI, and here is where it gets really interesting. And so the same ink blocks were shown to these two different AIs, and this is exactly the same thing that's done for humans. Psychologists use this. And then what's interesting is the Norman AI, who has been fed nothing but these really disturbing, violent images, it sees a man is electrocuted and catches to death. Whereas the normal AI, which has been fed different data, sees a group of birds sitting on top of a tree branch. Okay, and as you go down here, there's more. The second in block, it has red spots. So Norman sees a man is shot dead, whereas the standard AI sees a close-up of a vase with flowers. And as you could go through this, you could see where this would get really, really interesting, to say the least. And also, that's where the scary part comes in. Because if an AI is fed only this really horrendous type of data where it's nothing but violence, death, or maybe there could be a lot of sadness, just basically a lot of negative, violent things, right? Imagine what the AI is going to do whenever it has its own control. It's going to see the whole world as nothing but one violent negative place. And once the AI has full control, and I always refer to Skynet of Terminator, it will see humans as a threat. And then it will start doing what it's supposed to do because it sees everything as violent and evil, okay, or whatever it determines as evil. And so this is a real world scenario because they're testing it right now. This is actually happening. And so that's why whenever you hear people who are in the technology field or really smart people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, they all talk about AI and how they need to be fearful of it. Okay? Not fearful, I would say, let's just say they need to be really careful about how AI is being used. And if you go to this website called OpenAI, this is completely funded, or the majority of it, by Elon Musk himself. And so the thing is, it's funny how both Elon Musk and Bill Gates and many, many other smart people, such as Jeff Bezos, and they talk about AI in two ways, okay? In this one case, it's more cautionary and also the dangers as well. So basically they're saying AI is amazing, okay? But we understand that it could go this way, okay? And all of these people who have been in AI, who own these big technology companies, they're not stupid. They know that this can happen. And so at the same time, with Elon Musk and all these other companies, they're heavily investing in the AI as well. And so even they know that there could be potentially really scary things that are happening, they are heavily invested into it. Let's not forget that whenever AI becomes more and more part of our everyday lives, even more so than it is now, if obviously their companies are heavily invested into this, then they also stand to make a lot of money as well. Okay, so it's not just that part. I mean, there's really truly general concerns. Obviously, all these companies, all these big companies that I mentioned, they absolutely have been doing tests like this for sure. Okay, for sure. And they have a lot of data to really assess how they can actually manage AI. And I don't know, man. I mean, like, whenever I see things like this, it confirms a lot of the fears, you know. But once again, I'm just a guy, you know. I'm just one person who does not own any AI related companies. I'm not a multi-billionaire. And so these people are seeing things that we, for the most part, as normal everyday people, we will never see. We will never understand the complexities of this. And so whenever they show these things to the public, I think even though it is scary, it's a nice thing, because then at least we could kind of see how this AI stuff works in very general terms, and why whenever you see Elon Musk or any of these other people who are really in this, I mean, they're the ones really creating this type of technologies. They are shaping our future world, because as even if you don't like any of these things, it's inevitable. It's part of our civilization. And then especially when we actually have space travel, when we're traveling to space, just like going back to Space Odyssey 2001, right? Remember when HAL went crazy? Well, those same things can happen here. And so they're definitely testing all those things, because once we start exploring space, there's no other humans around. You know, you're going to be completely dependent upon an AI to keep your crew alive and to make sure that you have all the resources to make it to the destination that you need. And then you could colonize, okay? Those sci-fi movies were way ahead of the time, because they have to make sure that the AI that they develop now doesn't become a HAL. But as you can see here, it can become a HAL really, really easily, at least from a general point of view. But I know that these people who are developing this, they know that, okay? And so, but man, when I saw this stuff, I don't know, it was disturbing. It really is, because this seems more like humans, right? Whenever they're testing humans, it's going to be, you know, the whole idea of like nature versus nurture, okay? And so the whole concept is, are you who you are primarily because of nature? You know, you were born that way. You actually have all these DNA traits that make you who you are, or is it more of nurture, meaning the environment? Okay, so I think in this case, it's purely testing the environment, because obviously these AI, they weren't born out of anything. Okay, they were created from other machines, right? And so in this case, it purely shows that nature, the environment, the data that's being fed to the AI has a huge effect on how this AI thinks and how it evolves. And so, yeah, kind of scary stuff. And it's so funny also that it actually kind of coincides with the Linux Foundation. Just recently, they're having a challenge for their new Acumus AI, and you have a chance to win $50,000. And this is sponsored by AT&T and Tech Mahindra. And so, yeah, it's for open source development. And, you know, all of these, both of these are open AI projects. Anyway, I just found that extremely, extremely interesting because, anyway, this confirms a lot of things that most normal people would think about. But this stuff has been going on for a while now, you know, and that was interesting to see how the very first birth of, I guess, official AI was in 1956. That's a while back. Okay, let's see who's on here. Hey, good morning, Rose. Thank you for joining. George Sharpas, thank you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Penguins of Gaza, awesome. Wait, is that still Gaza? Did you change your name? Okay, let's see what's. Oh, hello, Rose. Good morning. Rose is saying, I think they need to unplug Norman and purge his data bank ASAP before this AI gets out in the real world. Yeah, Rose, I think it's a little too late. And you know, a lot of our whatever we use anyway, there's just so much AI, Rose. I mean, my you know, maybe it's a good thing. You know how they say ignorance is bliss. I think if we knew everything that was going on, and it's just so complex, I don't know if, you know, people could function every day, you know, because they would probably be so paranoid all the time, I think, you know. So maybe that's a good thing that we don't know too much. But when they put out little samples of this, okay, that picture kind of looks creepy. I'm sorry, that kind of looks creepy. But you know, anyways, yeah, psycho. Hey, let me see. Rose say you could buy an ETF called Bots, the Global X Robotics and Artificial Intelligence. Bots seeks to invest in companies that stand to benefit from increased adoption of robotics and AI. Yeah, Rose, I'm pretty sure that's a huge thing. I mean, if you have the money to invest, then AI is a natural choice for you to invest in, especially if you were an early investor. Because, man, whoever gets this right, or basically that is adopted by the majority, they're going to be, their company's going to do really well in the future. Okay, so but I'm thinking the normal companies that I just mentioned earlier, Google, IBM, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, you know, those normal companies, Microsoft, all of them are in AI. And so I think, you know, they're going to be the tops, you know, just like they are now. Let me see. Yeah, Penguins of Gaza. Okay, so Gaza, I do like that better. It just sounds really cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that, Gaza. I'm not gonna lie, it looks really cool. Okay, so that was pretty much the only piece of news that I really wanted to talk about today, because I actually wanted to test drive Linux Mint 19. Okay, Linux Mint 19 beta. Okay, so let's go over there real quick. So I'm gonna minimize this, and so what I have here is, once I log in. Okay, and let me make sure. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go full screen on this. And so I might not be able to see your chat right now, so I'm just gonna go over this and then I'll come back to it. Okay, so is it full screen? Okay, it might take a second. I don't know why they didn't. Okay. All right. Well, I think it still has some bugs. I think they mentioned that the resolution is capped out at 1024. I think so. Okay. So anyway, this is Linux Mint 19 Beta XFCE, and you know, anybody who watches my channel knows that I am an absolute Linux Mint fanboy. 99% of that's the only distro that I use. I love Linux Mint. So anytime there's a new version, I get pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, and so this one is XFCE version. I normally use nothing but Cinnamon. I have tried out XFCE recently on my Windows laptop, basically my netbook, and it's pretty sweet. I really like it. I'm still a Cinnamon person, but this is really sweet. So let me go over some of the changes that they've made to Linux Mint 19. Okay, at least as far as I know from the release notes. And so I'm gonna go into the actual welcome screen. And so that's the first thing that they did. They actually updated the welcome screen. I think they made it simpler to use. And I like how they give you the first steps of what to do. And I'm going to go over some of these. I'm not going to go over every new thing, okay? But this is really nice. And so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and open up the release notes so then I could kind of follow along with what they've introduced, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, the first thing that I remember was the welcome screen, okay? And I'm not going in order here. Okay, so they did want to make it easier for new people who were getting into Linux. Okay, and this is something that I have mentioned before. Linux, modern Linux, it is so much easier than it's ever been. The people who produce these Linux Mint or Linux distros in general, they really focus on the users and the user experience. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I really feel Linux Mint and most Linux distros are easier to use than Microsoft Windows. It's just so much easier. And this confirms a lot of the things that most people who use modern Linux would agree with, okay? So the first thing that they really focus heavily on is time shift, So let me open up time shift. And time shift was made available in a previous version of Linux Mint. I think it was 18 or maybe 18.3, something like that. But they're really making a push for time shift. I'm not really sure yet why it's such a big push, okay, because we have had backup systems before. So here's time shift, okay, and it just allows you to make sure you have backups of your system at different times. So it takes snapshots, okay, but obviously you're gonna have to have some space available as well. And so the reason why I think they're making such a big push with this is because it works with the update manager. And it goes back to what I just said earlier, the user experience, okay? And so where's the update manager? Right here, okay? And if you look at the update manager, things come up really quick, by the way. It's those little things, And so the update manager here is system snapshots. And so Linux Mint, they really recommend that you use automated snapshots. So what they're doing is, as far as I know, it's checking your snapshots as well, so then it can determine how to update your system. And so the reason why they're doing this is to give users a more stable experience. Because if you have been a Linux operating system desktop user for a long time, the experience we had early on where things break, things weren't always stable. And the most important thing is you can make an update and it could break your entire system, which is a bad thing. And so by the Linux Mint team doing this, once again, they're serving the end users. They're making sure that they have a much better experience. And I appreciate them for doing this, especially if you're brand new to Linux and you're coming from a Windows or Apple Mac, and you'll be surprised at, number one, how easy it is, but also number two, how Linux takes care of a lot of things without getting in the way, okay, without controlling your experience. And I love that, okay, so that's the first thing, and I understand why they did that, okay. And so let's look at some other things that they updated. Software Manager, they're continually improving this because with Linux Mint 18.3, they did make a huge update to the actual Software Manager. It looks a lot better, and most importantly, it's faster. Ever since Linux Mint 18.3, everybody remembers how slow it was to bring up the Software Manager. But nowadays, man, ever since 18.3, I absolutely love using this Software Manager. It's quick, it's fast, it's beautiful, and what they've actually done here is they've actually made the user interface better once again. So whenever you are installing programs, you should be able to see a progress. Let me see if I can just go ahead and install one just to see how it looks. Let's go ahead and install FileZilla, which install that one. And so, yeah, it's just cleaner. And I think there was a progress bar as well. Let me see if I could do that. So let me see. I can't remember. I think there was a status. But yeah, I saw it on the screenshot. But you know what I'm saying here. It's just a lot easier. It's cleaner and it's faster. Okay. And it's very similar to anybody who's had the whole App Store experience. And anybody who's been using Linux for a while knows that, you know, Linux has basically started the whole App Store model with repos. Okay. They've had this for a long time, way before Apple's App Store or Google's, you know. So anyway, continual improvements. I'm digging that. It's good. And let me see. Yeah, there it is. That's the screenshot I was trying to show, but it installed it so quick. And so continued improvements for high DPI support. So better resolution, especially for icons and stuff. And I'm really liking this theme. Even though this is the Minty Y theme, if you go here, it looks really good, man. It's clean, man. Here's the Mint Y theme. Icon pack Mint Y. Fonts. Yeah, I really like this. Okay, so that's great. And then other improvements to X apps, like the text editor and so forth. I don't really use much of it. I mean, I use the text editor, but you see what I'm saying? There's all these X apps. And so they made improvements to those. So for me, I just use the text editor, and I don't really think much about the newer features, to be honest. You know, like their PDF and stuff, because I don't really spend a lot of time using the PDF reader. But they are, once again, things that actually help improve the experience. Okay, and so also for USB formatting, or USB stick formatting, it also supports exFAT. Okay, and those are the main things. And so this isn't like a huge upgrade. Okay, it's refinements. Okay, and that's something that Linux Mint has always been known for. It's continually refining, and so I think 18.3 was, you know, one of the big revisions because it actually has cosmetic changes as well. And so right here, they're just refining it. Okay, and in terms of the Linux kernel, it is based upon Linux Mint 4.15, and as you know, pretty much Linux Mint is more about stability, and so it's not always going to have the latest and greatest, and so it's not going to have like a rolling release and stuff like that. Okay, and so here it says it features XFCE 4.12, Linux kernel 4.15 as shown here, and it has an Ubuntu 18.04 package base. And of course, how can I forget one of my favorite features of every new distro or every new version of this distro is new wallpapers. I'm not gonna lie, these wallpapers are good, but I don't know. I think I like Sylvia's wallpapers better. That's just me. But you know, hats off to all the people who actually contributed, these amazing artists and photographers. So yeah, I can't complain. You know, it's beautiful. Okay, and so yeah, so I think those are it for the primary. Actually, I think I went all of them. Went over every single feature. And so once again, it's more about these, you know, improvements versus anything huge and major. Okay, which I think is a really good approach, you know, because it keeps experience stable, and at the same time, much like what you see in other platforms with Android, iOS, Apple, Mac, Windows, they normally don't make dramatic changes, okay, except for, you know, every once in a while they make a major revision where they upgrade the actual look. Okay, so whenever people think about updates, normally they focus on the visual part, you know, how things change visually, whereas they don't really think about what's going on underneath. Okay, so in this case, that's what Linux Mint does really well. And so I'm digging this. Whenever this thing comes out of beta, I'm definitely going to be upgrading. Of course, I'm going to test it out first. I don't really like to upgrade my versions, especially when it comes out right away, because I want to make sure that it's stable first, at least for me, and that everything works fine before I upgrade. So normally I actually test it out in a virtual machine like I have here before I actually upgrade my main system. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the chat and see if there's... All right, good morning, KI2E. Thank you for joining. Let me see. Wow, okay, more people are on here. Okay, so obviously I didn't see any of these. So okay, so Penguins of Gaza saying, I'm still building my version of Jarvis for global domination. Yeah, absolutely, Gaza. You got to do it now. Hey, good morning, Lance. Thank you for joining. Penguins of Gaza, Jarvis. Or hey, Gaza, you could just call it Gaza. You know what I mean? Or Penguin as your AI. Hey, good morning, Shacher. Haven't seen you in a while. Just dropped by, want to say hi. Bye. See you later, Shacher. Thanks for saying hi. George is saying, my wife uses Mint XFCE and I use Mate. Not going to change them anytime soon. Yeah, George, either one is just sweet. And for me, I'm still going to stick around with Cinnamon because for me, that's one that I have gone comfortable with. I enjoy using. And then in terms of performance difference, at least on my desktop hardware, I can't tell the difference because I have a really powerful machine. But I can tell the difference whenever I'm running XFCE, like on my my other laptop, my netbook laptop, pretty much, which is a really underperformed, low performance machine. So XFCE runs really good on it, whereas I don't think Cinnamon would have run quite as good. It still runs, but XFCE does use less resources. Rose, I said I like time shift. It's basically restore point of MS Windows, which is a good idea. Yeah, Rose, I like it too. And you know, once again, I like it how it's made it simpler for the general user because Linux has had recovery methods for a long time now. It's just that they've been continually refining it. Okay. Hey, good morning, KI2NE. Thanks for joining. It looks simple to use too. Yeah, it does. You know. So guys are saying I prefer either back in time or Deja Dupe for backups, but not matter what you do. Just back up everything on a regular basis. Yeah. And you know, Gaza, you know that in Linux we have so many options when it comes to different software and backup software. It's just that, you know, the software that the community, the people who develop these distros put in place right away, I think it's great for like more than 90% of people. So I'm digging that, you know. And once again, I got to give my hats off to the whole community and team who actually produces these distros. It's amazing to me. I mean, if you think about the entire user experience, you know, all the effort that went into this, it blows my mind, you know. And so if you can support these people for these distros, please support them so then they could continue doing this, you know, because running the Linux Mint websites, servers, you know, paying people when they can, supporting the community, it's not free. And so if at all possible, if you have a distro that you love, please send some money to the people who create this because they're producing something absolutely amazing for free. Okay, so I just want to put that out there again whenever I can. Okay, so hey, good morning, Carlos Enrique. Thank you so much for joining. Penguins of Gaza saying, man, I'm trying to get used to that, Gaza. I'm really trying to get used to that new name. Okay, so Clonezilla is a great option for a true full backup of your system. Yeah, and Clonezilla is also for Windows too, right? Where you could pretty much restore your entire system. KI2 says, I should look it up as recommendations for people I talk to, though I usually clone with DD. Oh, okay, just like Gaza. So, oh wait, what is that? Okay, I think it just jumped. Okay, so Gaza saying, DD, wow, just make sure you don't nuke your system with it right over. Gaza saying, I've done it 3 times and I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, you do have to be careful when, and all of us know this, but I do like how time shift, it makes it easy for you, at least for everyday general users, not to mess up their system, especially when it comes to system updates. So I'm digging that. So Rose is saying, lucky you have Linux Gaza when it would be easy to reinstall. KI2A says, with that, I'm usually careful, though the backup things rings true. I had my home directory wiped from a typo using RM. Yeah, RM is exactly dir. Yeah, it's RM minus RF. Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with what Ki2 is talking about, those are actually command lines in the terminal. And so, whenever you are using your operating system, there's the GUI interface. And these are for people who might not be familiar with this. The same thing happens in Windows and Mac. So you have the nice, pretty desktop environment, your GUI environment, but everything that's happening underneath, it's commands. Okay? And so the same thing happens with every operating system. So that's kind of what Ki2 is referring to. You put in the wrong command, bad things could happen. Okay? So Lance is saying, I'm looking forward to the end of the Mint 19 beta so I can start using it for everyday driver. Yeah, Lance, I'm impressed. Honestly, with every new version, at least for me, of Linux Mint, I'm more and more impressed. Okay? Now, I think a lot of people who use many different distros, modern Linux distros, I think they could say the same. Every new version of Manjaro, every new version of Zolas and Terragos, Peppermint, and I mentioned this in the other video, the whole Linux experience, it just constantly keeps getting better. Okay? And I can't really say that for Microsoft Windows or Apple Mac. And I use all three operating systems. Okay? And I've been using Windows for more than 20 plus years. And so, yeah, but with Linux, it's a different experience, in my opinion. If you've spent any time using any of these modern Linux distros, it gets better across the board. Almost every single version of every distro, it gets better. Okay. Okay, Gaza is talking about commands, and George is saying whatever works for everyone. Absolutely, George. That's what I love about our Linux operating system community, because we get to choose what we use, and at the same time, if you need to use Windows or Mac, use that too. Use whatever works best for you. But for me, the primary one that I use is still going to be Linux. I don't think that's ever going to change. But I also use Microsoft Windows and Apple Mac as well. Okay, so I don't limit myself to one platform. Okay, so Crystal Martinez saying hello. Thank you, Crystal, for joining. K2 says I do use it to wipe drives when I did tech support with a former friend. Sweet. Rose is saying I'm happy with MX. Very true comment, George. Yeah, Rose. I'll be honest with you. After trying out MX Linux, I don't think that's for me. But I will say this: I did find this Linux Mint XFCE. I'm very impressed with this. Okay, I don't think I've ever used XFCE before for Linux Mint, and so whenever I put on my smaller laptop, I really do like XFCE a lot. It is sweet. It's not too much different from Cinnamon, and it is fast, and so I'm very impressed, and it's clean. I really like this. I think it looks better than Cinnamon, for sure. No doubt about that. And so who knows? I might make XFCE my main one. I'm not sure yet, but I really do enjoy it. Okay. Guys saying I was playing with Crux, a precursor to Vanilla Arch. Thank God we moved on. Sweet. So Canton is asking how was it? You seem to have Arch though. That AUR and build system is so simple to use. And so George is saying, I like Arch, but I am too lazy to set it up, LOL. And for people who are not familiar with what they're discussing a different Linux distribution, a Linux distro. And so they're talking about Arch Linux. And Arch Linux it's more complex, but there are versions of Linux, like Manjaro, which is based upon Arch, which makes it easier for most people, okay? So, and my brother uses Arch to do development. He's a web developer and a programmer, and so he develops purely in Arch Linux. And so K2 is saying building an open CPN update from AUR right now. Okay, guys is saying you have to manually build everything with the dependencies, so it's archaic, but I'm still playing with it. End up being okay. Correct. So now they're talking about a lot of Linux stuff. Crystal's saying Kali Linux. Haven't done K2, haven't done anything similar with my test drive OpenBSD. Okay, so a lot of techie talk right there, but overall, I am very happy with the direction of Linux Mint 19. It's the features that they did decide to update and refine. Great choices. It goes back to making the whole Linux user experience much better. And so, yeah, I can't wait for this actually to be completely live. Okay, so yes. So who knows? In the future, I might be using XFCE more. Okay, as I probably use this more and more and get used to it. I do really like this, and so far I don't really see much that's missing from XFCE. So besides some programs that I could easily install, and so I have to see what the real differences are as I dig deeper, because I've been on Cinnamon pretty much forever. That's really the only desktop environment I use for Linux Mint for the most part. I have tried KDE as well, but it doesn't work for my everyday needs versus Cinnamon. So let's see there. Okay, so now we are done talking about the main news topics. So now it's time for us to get into some geeky Q&A, or just whatever we want to talk about geek-wise. And I normally talk about like movies and games. Okay, and I'll continue that tradition. But since we are on the Linux stuff right now, let me talk about one other thing article I saw with Linux. And it was a recent article with Mark Shuttleworth, and where he feels that Canonical and Ubuntu are going. Because earlier in the week I did a video where I talked about Microsoft, purchasing GitHub, and how I believe that Ubuntu is next. Okay, or Canonical, Mark Shuttleworth's company. And Mark Shuttleworth, next to Red Hat, they have the most successful Linux companies, period. Okay, and so a lot of times as general users, we primarily see it from obviously our point of view. Okay, but in the whole Linux world, in order for you to survive, much like any other industry, you have to make money. And Mark Shuttleworth, he knows how to make money. He's an entrepreneur. And so he's actually worth 340 million euros. I don't know how much that is in US dollars, but basically he's doing well. Okay? And the one thing that he is really focusing on, which he has been focusing on, and this is with every industry, okay? All their money, it's not made from end users like me and you. And that's for every industry, pretty much, except for the consumer industry. That's a little different. But the majority of all their money is made from enterprise solutions, businesses who purchase Ubuntu services. In this case, Ubuntu cloud services. And I didn't know that Ubuntu's cloud services were so dominant. Okay, and obviously I knew they were with Amazon Web Services, but it's also used by other companies like OpenStack, Rackspace, all these other companies. And so Mark Shuttleworth is actually going to be focusing more on the cloud services, which makes sense, which is what every company is doing anyway. And I definitely understand why. And then also focusing more on IoT, the Internet of Things. Once again, if we've been talking about this for quite a while, all of these things are not surprising. And so I really feel that Mark Shuttleworth, I don't know, I feel like they might focus less and less on the actual desktop operating system. That's my opinion, I think. Because they really are going to be focusing more on their business and their cloud services. Okay, and that makes sense to me. So in terms of major improvements to Ubuntu, I don't really see that coming. That's just my opinion. It'll be more evolutionary, just incremental. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, maybe since he is going to be focusing more on the cloud and server side, business side, you might not see as many new and exciting things for base Ubuntu. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so pretty soon he might be taking this IPO for Canonical. So let's see what happens there in 2019. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so all right. So yeah, has anyone seen last episode of Sense8? Gaza is asking. No, Gaza, I've only watched a few episodes of Sense8, and that is a sci-fi show. It's on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. And George Choppers is saying 300 million euros. Damn, that's pretty much $300. Or, wait. Okay, $300 million. Okay, thanks, George. Well, I think that's more. Okay, so let me see. I'm curious now. Euro to US currency. Okay, let's see how much that is. Okay, so 300 million. Okay, 300 million. Okay, it's 340 million euros. 1, 2, 3. Is that no 1, 2, 3? Yeah, it's a little over 400 million US dollars. Yeah, I think Mark Shuttleworth's gonna be fine. He'll be okay. So guys are saying Ubuntu and Black Hat should merge and truly dominate the enterprise market. Oh, yeah, I said that I think Microsoft's gonna buy Ubuntu. That's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. You know, Cat tuning. So I thought they already did since I don't see much of SUSE lately. Yeah. Okay. Rose saying, let MS take it over Canonical. No doubt it would turn Canonical into dust crap. MS like spending billions and most of those billion turns to nothing. Yeah, Rose, I don't know. I remember you put that on some of the comments when on that video that I put out. I don't know. They've had a better track record, I would say, whenever they purchase other companies. And the reason I say that is I compare that to Oracle. Oracle has done the worst, especially when it comes to like open source projects. They just destroy things, okay? Whereas Microsoft, they don't necessarily destroy everything, okay? And I'm just being objective about it, because if you actually look at their track history and compare it to Oracle, Oracle does a worse job, in my opinion, okay? But that doesn't mean we need to still not keep our eyes open on what Microsoft is doing, okay? Because Microsoft does stuff, and we know that. George is saying, yeah, he's going to be fine, poor guy. Yeah, George, you'll be fine. Let me see. Oh, gaming news, just really quick. So the Atari VCS, okay, I did talk about that earlier in the week, and how they've already made like almost $3 million. Almost. Yeah, let me see how much they made. Okay, so there has been some controversial news. Yeah, 2.76 million dollars. Okay, but some controversial news came out where Atari was found to be pretty much lying. Okay, and well, I don't see the news here, but so basically what happened was on their Indiegogo page, right? The main game that they were touting as a new game, okay, was Tempest 4000, okay, and there it is, okay. So the actual thing is, they were saying that this is going to be available on a console, and it was showing this video clip of this person playing Tempest 4000 on the Atari VCS, but they actually found out that the developers of the Tempest 4000 doesn't even know that this is actually going to be the Atari VCS, because they haven't heard anything. You know, this game is already available on other platforms. And so that was really surprising. And because of that, Atari was actually called out on this, and now they actually had to put this actual note. All IP shown is trademark property of respective owners and is depicted for illustration purposes only. I think they had that even before, but maybe they've added this because they were called out, because this game, even from the actual developer, Llamasoft, hasn't even been created for this system. They haven't even negotiated anything. And so this really concerns people who were skeptical of this, I included. It really feels like, man, Atari might be doing the same thing they did with the Jaguar, over-promising things, and here just blatantly just lying about something that even the actual developer doesn't know about. They didn't know that they were developing an Atari VCS version, that they're putting this out here as fact, you know, pretty much. And that's kind of sad, because all the people who have actually invested in Atari VCS, and I'm not investing in this, I feel like they might be really disappointed. Okay, especially in light of that. That was, you know, I mean, you could say that this is just for like illustrative purposes or whatever, but that's a pretty big thing when you put it up like that, you know. Anyway, this doesn't actually help give me any more confidence that the Atari VCS is going to be nothing more than vaporware or a nice concept. And, you know, unless they get some more developers on board and build trust, especially with the people who are actually investing in their system, dude, it's game over. Quite literally. It's I don't know, dude. That's just bad. I don't know why you would do that. Um, License keys for Linux. Okay. So K2E saying, though we know MS is probably thinking about it at one point. Okay, license keys. Okay. Rose is saying only for Ubuntu and MS Linux versions, like Linux Mint perhaps. So guys are saying Atari VCS. Why bother wasting money when you could just use RetroArch and torrent ROMs all day, every day for any retro games? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, guys. I mean, I'm a retro gamer, and obviously, I use emulators. Okay, I don't have all these systems, and most of these games you'll never be able to get again. And so, and obviously, that is a very gray area, because these were developed by people and companies, and you are basically using it for free. So being a content creator, that's such a gray area. But I know what you're saying. And why would somebody purchase a system even though you could get this for free? Well, because look at the Nintendo Mini, the Super Nintendo Mini, and the upcoming N64 Mini, and all these retro boxes. There's bazillions of them out there. The Sega Genesis one, because nostalgia. Okay, nostalgia. Nostalgia's really huge. And oh yeah, Ki2Ne is what he's saying. Collectors and aficionados. Yeah, nostalgia is huge. And you know, guys. I mean, you've been around for a long time. I wish I still had my old Atari. I had the Atari. I didn't have the 2600 original, the wood grain. One of my friends did, but I did have the Atari 5800 with all the buttons. I even think I had the ColecoVision as well, and so I wish I would have kept them. I don't know what happened to them, And so I would probably buy this if it was good, mainly because of nostalgia. So I'm one of those people, man. I mean, I love Atari. Back in the day, Nintendo, Sega, I would just get it just for nostalgia, even though I could play the games on my computer or even my smartphone. And so, let me see. So George is saying, Penguin, there are true gamers out there. They prefer Atari VCS. Yeah. And so guys are saying, LOL, true gamers. George is saying, so they say. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Rose is saying, I agree with Gaza. Yeah. So I think that's it for the news today, for everything that we talked about. We talked about the psychotic AI, Norman, awesome. We also took a look at the brand new version of Linux Mint 19 Beta XFCE. And then we talked about some other stuff here, Mark Shuttleworth and where he's going with Canonical and Ubuntu. And also the Atari VCS. And how I'm probably not going to get one for sure. Okay. And so Rose is saying, go on eBay or Kijiji and buy Atari or Commodore 64. Rose, I might have to do that. My nostalgia is, my nostalgia right here. It's really going to cause me to spend money in areas that I shouldn't. Yeah, Joy, grateful to hear from you as well. So before I sign off, let me go ahead and thank everyone as always who's here. So in the future, and as my channel grows, and all of us know this, right? I'm not going to be able to thank everybody who's on this live chat. Okay, so I want to take the opportunity to do that in every episode, because regardless of, and this is something personal for me. Okay, regardless of how my channel grows, and I already thought about this even when I created my channel, I just want to let all of you know that I can't thank you enough. And whenever people say that on YouTube videos as content creators, it's hard to really express that, okay? But I can't thank you enough for supporting me, watching my videos, allowing me to learn and grow in so many ways, helping build this community of geeks, And even when I get to whatever number of subscribers in the future, I'm always going to say the same thing. Thank you, okay? So I'll say that right now. And I'll say it again later on. But thank you, Rose. Thank you, George. Thank you, Penguins of Gaza. Let me see. Thank you, Lance, for joining. Shatter, thank you for coming in real quick. Always appreciate it. Ki2Ne, thank you so much, Ki2Ne, and for continually really helping out a lot in the comments. Carlis Enrique, thank you. I might have to learn some, I think it's, in Brazil, it's Portuguese. So I might have to learn a little bit of that. And let me see if there's anybody else. I don't want to miss it. Crystal Martinez, thank you so much for joining us in our geeky discussion. And let me see. I think I've gotten everyone. Okay. All right. Okay. And so for everybody else that is watching right now or later on in the stream later, thank you so much for joining our geeky discussion. If you had any comments or thoughts about anything we talked about today, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did want to support my channel further, you can do that at patreon.com/geekoutdoors. And we'll see you on another live episode.